and I will refer to Pierre, is there size stipulations that pertains to agricultural versus residential? Pierre.
You'll have
to
go ahead. You'll have to forgive me if they are. But I have seen cases where persons feel that they can build on the entire acre. It's one building, but they want to build on the entire acre, use up the majority of the parcel of land, you know? And that certainly would raise a lot of questions in the eyes and minds of Tongan country. And what a lot of persons don't realize, if a complaint, it could be from a neighbor, from a member of the public, goes into Tongan country, you can find yourself before the courts, right? The court of law, for not adhering to their rules and regulations. So many landowners have tried, you know, we live in Trinidad and persons get very, very creative, right? But many persons have found themselves before the courts with Tongan country for not adhering to the policy. Regarding the specific size of the structure, that will be a determination by Tongan country, and most likely be a case-by-case basis. I can't recall any specific size of the structure. It should also not exceed 2 stories or roughly 27 feet in height, right? So those are just some general guidelines. Mr. 𝗖𝗂𝗃 mentioned 5 bedrooms. So you could kind of work with those parameters.
Yeah. And for those who are joining us for the first time here, again, we welcome your questions specifically. However, one of the things I want to emphasize is that agricultural lands are at minimum 1 acre plots, which means that there will be approvals, there's access. Let's say you have a 100-acre plot, you have a 5-acre plot. You could actually break that up into 1 acre, at minimum 1 acre plots, and be able to have your single 5. If it's in the case of a 5-acre plot, you can have 5 single family dwellings on that 5-acre plot if the plot is properly surveyed to identify the 1-acre plots. So it is important. It's important to know these things so that you know how to navigate your investments, navigate your inheritances, navigate your access to what your lands can do for you, which is important. The other thing is when you decide to do a change of use, and now that you have gotten your outline approval and so forth, the very next step is to make sure and get a draft or a drawing of what you want done on the lands. So, for instance, let's say you have some land, you've gotten it approved for residential. You have that, you have to put in your roads, your drains, your everything, no problem, you put those things in, but then you have to submit a drawing of what the residence would look like. That would be your house, whatever it's 5,000 square foot plots, 8,000 square foot plots. Make sure, and that also needs to be done with specific setbacks and specific guidelines by Tongan country. That is your very next step after that, and that will now be sent in for approval. We have a question here from Derek Thomas. What is the best type of soil to build on in Trinidad, and where is that soil located? That's a very interesting question. Best soil is soil that can has a high bearing capacity. What does a bearing capacity mean? Soil is made up of air and dirt, more or less, and water. And the more dirt that you have, or the more solid that you have, is the best soil. So the best thing to build on, for those of you who might be of a religious persuasion, is rock, right? And so the best thing to work with is rock, and you find more rocky soil within the northern range, within the mountainous regions. You also have loess soil, which is a combination of both rock and clay, and you have silts and different things like that. And again, within the east-west corridor, you would find that kind of soil. Some places in San Fernando, again, where there are mountainous regions, you will more or less find quote unquote good soil to build on. Other than that, it would be you will have to manipulate your foundations. And I'm speaking based on my knowledge as a structural engineer. You will have to manipulate your foundations, whether a raft foundation that floats, whether you elevate your building so that it can accommodate for any kind of movement or floods. Retaining walls are very, very difficult in clay soils. So, I mean, it's a little bit off topic. We just wanted to address the question, but the best thing to build on is rock. And outside of that, a loess soil is actually no problem at all once you're able to have a high bearing capacity. Now, that being said, how do you find out? How do you know what kind of soil? It's not a man come and say, well, the contractor say the soil good. That is not effective. And we at 𝗖𝗵𝗲, we sincerely encourage professionalism. So there are geotechnical engineers, there are people who do soil sampling, and so again, we could assist, or you can get your own persons. But the idea is that you can get someone who knows what they're doing to test the soil, to let you know the bearing capacity of the soil, and that informs people like me, structural engineers, to be able to design proper foundations for your residential land or your homestead if it's agricultural. I hope that answers your question. Sir, the next question. How can I determine before purchasing an agricultural plot with the intention of changing it to residential that in fact it can be changed? Now knowing that it actually takes months after submitting relevant documents, but only after purchasing. So the question again, how can I determine before purchasing an agricultural plot with the intention to change it to residential that it in fact can be changed? Mr. 𝗖𝗍, I think you take this one.
Wow. That there's no guarantee. There's really no guarantee. Now what I could say though, because remember I said previously that decision lies squarely in the hands of the planner in charge of the specific area, right? Now, a good guideline is that if the area is relatively developed, meaning that there isn't in the entire area, there isn't like one house here, and then the other house is like about a mile up the road, and there's, you know, there isn't a proper road access and so on. I would say it's hardly unlikely they will give change of use. Look for an area where the land is located, it is relatively developed. There are one or two houses around. You know, there's proper road access. Now, remember, when I say proper road access, I'm not talking about road access on the agricultural land itself, because we now advise that you shouldn't spend money to develop and put roads and so on the site, on the proposed site, unless you get change of use. All right. But I'm speaking about access before the site, right? So, but to answer the question in a very direct way, there's no guarantees, because that lies squarely in the hands of the planner in charge of that specific area. Town Country makes that decision. So really there's no guarantee, but this is just a guide. Look for an area that has a reasonable amount of development within the area.
Go ahead, Pierre. Go ahead.
Yes. So usually a purchase transaction takes, or it should take a minimum of around 90 days, right? Or 3 months to close from the time a person makes a down payment to closing, right? The transaction. Why is that the case? Well, the institutions need to do their relevant checks and searches to ensure that the transaction is viable, right? So that being the case, it doesn't hurt to spend the time upfront. And this is how developers operate. Developers don't just arbitrarily purchase land.